What is the BRARR method? I could not find any content on YouTube of anyone talking about including the Airbnb being a property in the BRRRR method. So I'm going to give it a shot. Literally in real life, I am giving it a shot, and I'm also going to explain the method as well. So just to cover it quickly, the BRRRR method is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. I'm sure many of us have heard of that. Fairly self-explanatory. Now let's talk about including Airbnb. So first we buy a place, then we renovate it, and then we put it on Airbnb to earn a solid profit per year. I'm talking like at least 20K US dollars net profit after paying the mortgage per year. Refinance to get the equity out, and repeat. So the first step, buying, is the most important step, because you don't want to buy a place that is no good for Airbnb, because then you can't do the method. So you need to do research. Just go on Airbnb and research which places are performing. Like, you can see in their calendar if they're getting booked. You can see what they're charging. Just enter in a random week next month, see what they're charging. See how many of those nights are blocked. If it's around 70% or something, you can be pretty confident that that place is actually getting booked. If it's fully booked, completely blocked out, it's probably not booked. It's probably just blocked out, right? And if it's got at least 20 reviews, you can take that into consideration. If it's got less than 20 reviews, I would take it with a grain of salt, because maybe it's not a full-time Airbnb. Why 20 reviews? Just because I chose that number. You know, you can have it, it's a sliding scale, but the more reviews, the more reliable your finding of that property is as a data set. So what I did in Perth was I looked around Perth, I looked by the beach, I looked in the city, I looked in the upcoming areas, I looked at the area next to the casino, and I found an area that performs pretty well. I did my research, and then I'm not going to share exactly that area because I plan to buy more there, so I don't want to reveal my IP. Unfortunately, you guys will have to do your own research wherever you're buying. And then, yeah, I bought the type of property that works in that area. So it could be a studio, 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed, even 4 bedrooms. And it's going to be different in different parts of the city. And the two metrics that you got to think is the cost of the apartment and the revenue that it can generate for you. So obviously, like, penthouses are going to be performing the most in terms of revenue, but how much is it going to cost you to secure a penthouse? It doesn't necessarily mean just because they're the most expensive that they are the best, right? So you've got to figure out what property gets the best ROI. As I said, it could be any of these properties. Some cities, penthouses with 4 bedrooms are performing the best. Like, they are getting a 3x ROI year round. Some cities it's studio apartments. Some cities it's 1 bedrooms. Some cities it's 2 bedrooms. Some cities it's houses. Just depends. You just got to do the research and find out. There's no shortcut. The next thing is what style is performing. So you can't just buy any random place that is the right size, right? You've got to also make sure that it's the correct style. So if it's in a hipster area, maybe you want to get a bit of more hipster furniture, a bit of a hipster renovation. If it's a beach area, you might want to get a bit more quirky with the renovation and the styling. You might want to go with a boho theme, Mediterranean, Hamptons. But at the end of the day, you just got to find the places in the area that you're thinking about, or the city that you're thinking about, that are performing. Why are they performing? Like, is it the size of the apartment? Is it the type of the apartment? Is it the renovation? Is it the furniture? Is it a combination of all three? Usually it's going to be a combination of all three of the ones that are hitting the spot. So once you buy the place, you need to contact, assuming you have money to also do a renovation. Typically how this works is you either, one, get approval for, let's say you're buying a place for $500,000. you get approval to borrow around 400K, and you put in 100K or 80 to 100K. Let's just say 100K to keep it simple. You borrow 400K, so you get your pre-approval to borrow 400K by going to a mortgage broker. And you say, hey, I want to buy a place in Melbourne. I want to buy a place worth around 500K. I have 100K, so I would like to explore my options to get a bank loan to be able to buy this place for 500K. So in that scenario, you'd need around 400K to borrow from the bank, right? So you can either have extra money to do the renovation. So let's say the renovation is going to cost 150K and you want to buy a place for 500K, then you would need 100K to secure the property and then another 150K to renovate it. So that's 250K to secure a place for 500K and renovate it for 150K, all in for 650K. Or if you don't have that much money, which is most of us, you go for the pre-approval to include the renovation loan. Now, I haven't done this personally, but the basic gist of it is you say, hey, mortgage broker, I want to buy a place for $500,000 and I want to spend 150K on the renovation. This is how much money I can put into the deal. Can I get a loan for the remainder? So let's do some quick maths. 650K all in, right? 500K for the apartment, 150K for the renovation, times 0.8. So you'd be looking to borrow 520K for you. Sorry, I got food on my face. For you to use the money to buy the property itself and to pay for the renovation. Just talk to your mortgage broker wherever you are in the world. Ask them how this works. Say, this is what I want to do, and they'll explain the rest in detail. You don't need to hear all the specifics from me. Next, you need to, well, let me just talk a little bit about buying a place. So you can either just go and find places that are for sale and they have a price tag on it, but you're going to get ripped off in terms of paying the price. So you're going to pay the most current market value, which is always the highest usually, unless the market is dropping. Or you can look, so let's say you find a particular building that you want to buy in, and like where I'm talking about apartments right now, and you go to the recently sold properties and you just look at what real estate agent sold those properties. And you call them up and say, hey, Bob, I noticed you sold apartment 1 on 2 Smith Street. You sold this property. Do you have any more in the pipeline? I've got my pre-approval ready to go to buy a place for 500K. Do you have any more ready to go? I don't care if it's unrenovated or whatever. Preferably it is unrenovated because I'm going to renovate it myself. Then Bob will go and source, and he'll go and call the neighbors, because usually these guys or girls, they already have their finger on the pulse in the building, and they already know the people that are thinking about selling. And they can say, hey, yeah, I just found this guy called James. I know you've got a place in the building. Have you thought about selling it? I reckon I can get you, 480K or whatever. And then Bob, because you've called him and said you're ready to go, Bob knows that's an easy deal. He can just sort it out because you've got the pre-approval. You're ready to go. You want in this building. He can just go and call someone and he just get a quick deal. Whereas if you didn't come along, he'd have to wait for that person to decide to sell, get them to pay for marketing fees, do all of that photos and prepare the place and get access and all this sort of shit. Bob is lazy. Bob doesn't want to do that. Real estate agents want it to be easy for them. So make it easy for them. And that's how you can get off-market deals. And that's how all these buyers, agents, brokers well, not all of them are spruikers, but many. That's how they get the deals. They just do that sort of stuff. And that's how they get it like 20K below market value. So that's how I got it, 20K, around 20K below market value, even 30K previously in Logan, Queensland, and in Perth. You can also obviously pay a buyer's agent to do this for you. Usually going to be around 10 to 20K and they'll just do that exact same thing. It's so easy for them to do. You're basically just giving them free money. I reckon you can buy a place with around 5 hours of admin work for yourself to just do everything I just said. Okay, so that's the buying part covered. I won't go too into detail with how all the buying works because it works different in different states and different countries. So you buy the place and then you start Googling for renovation companies in that area, and you want to make some calls and ask them, hey, look, I found this place on Airbnb that's killing it with this renovation in this area. How much would it cost you guys to do the same renovation, and how long would it take you? And then you start just doing the feasibility. And it's probably going to take quite a while to get them booked in. So you might have to, you're almost definitely going to have to just furnish it with furniture that already matches the reno you plan to do in the future, right? So it's going to basically be a shitty apartment with amazing furniture in the theme of the future renovation. Just chuck it up on Airbnb. Yeah, you'll get pretty poor reviews, like 4.6, 4.7 or something, so long as the place is always cleaned properly. And then you just host it on Airbnb until you can figure out when to renovate it. It's going to take at least probably 6 months to do a complete renovation, sometimes 12 months, depending on access, to renovate the place. So you'll need to prepare for the lack of income for that period of time as well. So a 500k place would probably be getting $500 to $700 a week. So you're going to be without 25 to 35k for that year that you're getting renovated, plus the cost of the renovation. So I would put the renovation thing as optional, but if you want to be pulling in 50k net profit, like net profit after paying your mortgage, it is a key component here. So, you obviously got to pay a lot of money and effort to do the renovation, but it's super worth it from what I've seen. I've seen some places absolutely printing money. The next step is putting it on Airbnb, and that is a whole thing in itself if you're going to try and do that yourself. So unless you're planning on doing it at scale, I don't recommend just learning how to do Airbnb with just one property, because you're not going to have the focus to go up the learning curve and get good at it with just one property. You need to be dedicating your career, or at least as a side hustle, to managing multiple Airbnbs to actually get good at it. If you want to learn from me, just check out all my other content on YouTube and Instagram or TikTok. All the links are in the bio. If you want to watch a mini course, there's a link to my free school community in the bio where you can join that. And you can also connect with other people doing similar stuff and network with them. So yeah, I won't go into detail on Airbnb in this video, because I could literally talk about it for like 30 hours. Next thing is refinance. So unfortunately now you don't really add that much value when you renovate a property. So let's say, yeah, you spend 150k on the renovation on a 500k property. You've probably got, like, after you've renovated it, you've probably got a place worth 620,000 to 650,000. So let's just be conservative. And then basically you go back to your broker and say, hey, look, I've spent some money on the place. It's now not worth 500k anymore. I think it's worth 620k. Here's a couple of comparable sales in the area that support that thesis. So I would like to draw down to 20%. Oh, wait, sorry. If you've only just done it and you got the finance loan, the renovation loan before you bought the place, then you wouldn't have to do this. But if you started this with 20% deposit plus the 150k in cash ready to put into the renovation, you could then go and reach out to them and do this, which would allow you to access around 70% of that 150k that you invested, which is 105k. So that would allow you to refinance the money that you put into it by around 70%. So you draw out 100K from the 150K you put in. That would go in your offset account. You can then take that and then go and buy another property, so long as you've got the serviceability for another property of 500K, right? And then obviously you just wait for the market to move. It might take 6 months, might take a couple of years, and then you just keep on refinancing that extra equity beyond 20% that you've got in the place into your offset account, and you keep on buying more properties. Now, the key factor here is serviceability. So in summary, if you're buying stuff in your personal name in most countries around the world, I'm just specifically talking about Australia, but in most countries around the world, you need to be earning enough money to service the loan, and the banks will determine if you can service the loan or not. It's not you that can determine that, unfortunately, or fortunately as well, because that's how we had the GFC. So the only way that I've found to get around this is by buying inside of a trust. Now, I am no expert in this at all, but I have done it one time. This is all I know on this topic. You find a mortgage broker that has done this before, and you ask him, what type of trust do I need to set up so that I can buy a property that services itself, that pays for itself inside of the trust, refinance the equity out, set up another trust, buy another property in that trust, and repeat. Now, that is what will allow you to continue the BRARR method potentially infinitely. There's different things that you can do apparently, where you can get your accountant to write a letter and say, hey mortgage broker, or hey bank, this letter is to certify that the property that James bought inside of this trust services all of its debt obligations. So basically you don't need to worry about that, and therefore you don't need to look at his income to assess whether he can get finance to buy another property inside of a trust. It goes something like that. But obviously you'll need to talk to professionals when you get to that point. But you can send them this video and maybe they'll know what I'm talking about. And I mean, that's the basics of it. Obviously, this topic could go on for a very long time to do all of the details. But so I bought my place in Perth inside of a trust, and the next market I'm going to focus on is Melbourne. I'm going to buy a apartment inside of a trust, and I'm going to follow this method. I found a property in Melbourne that is renovated really well, that produces the lady, assuming she bought it at around $500,000, produces her around 65,000 Australian dollars in net profit after paying the mortgage. So that's the key part. The place that I've got in Perth is unrenovated, and it's producing me 32K. There is a video on my channel breaking down the numbers of that. That's pretty epic, 32K without a renovation. So imagine if it did have a renovation, probably be producing like 65, 70K net profit from one place. So my goal is to have 10 of these places producing 60K in net profit that I own, and to just follow the BRARR method. Basically, I'm not going to mess around buying properties in Logan that I can't Airbnb anymore. I'm only focusing on buying places that I can Airbnb and follow the BRARR method. So give us a subscribe if you want to follow this journey, and make sure to check out my other stuff. And on this channel, follow my Instagram and join the school community. It's free. Talk soon.